Hi and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Dan.
Chris.
Lee.
Where do we start on the Russian Grand Prix then?
Probably at the beginning.
Yes. It was, interesting for a lot of reasons.
It was a better Russian Grand Prix than we're used to.
We've had terrible Grand Prix in Russia, let's be honest. Races that have been...
France-like.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, I think I was kind of expecting the same again. Or something along the levels of like the German Grand Prix this year. We got something that was kind of in the middle.
We got an okay race.
I thought it was all right. Pretty interesting.
Compared to recent races, it was pretty dull.
But it's interesting from start to finish.
Dan, you're 18 minutes early.
Hand gestures don't work on podcasts, Dan.
But I think
I'm sure the listeners can imagine.
But yeah, we got something sort of in the middle, didn't we? It wasn't an amazing race. It was eventful, and it was I thought it was interesting right from the word go, literally from the word go right until the end of the race, and then the fallout that happened afterwards even was quite interesting.
Do you know what? It backs up what we said in the last race, or I said. Jolyon Palmer had said, scrap the rule of making people do their race on the tyres they qualify in Q2.
Yeah.
Because you get different tyre compounds on the top cars, and you have different strategies, and you have a race on your hands.
Yeah.
We'll obviously talk about it later on, but I think safety car or no, I think Mercedes won that race because of the tyres they were on.
I think so too.
I think they'd have won it anyway.
I also think that, but should we start at the back and work forward?
Yeah, I think we should. And for the first time, it's a double DNF for Williams.
Following their first DNF in Singapore, a double DNF
Brake
in
problems
Russia.
for George Russell and...
Kubica was a bit tired. No, I don't know what the official answer was.
The official answer was the problems that Russell had, because when George Russell's brakes went, they... what was it? The front right just went pop.
They don't even know if it's brakes, do they?
Something.
It was
flew out of the wheel.
There was a brake failure, but they don't know what caused it.
Did you see the interview with Russell, like in the pit afterwards? And he was saying all of a sudden he was coming down the thing. He said, and the whole car bottomed out. He said, I don't know if the front wing fell off and went under the car or not. But it's more than just a brake failure. It sounds like it was a suspension failure as well.
Oh, right.
But the Paul Kubica are out. The official reason they gave at the time was to save components.
For Kubica?
Yeah.
Right.
And then they said later on that there was a worry that he might have had the same problem that Russell did.
Well, he said in his pen interview, he was asked like what had happened. He said, "I have no idea. They just told me to come in. The car felt fine."
But that was before he'd had the debrief.
Oh yeah,
it
was before that.
Yeah.
But no, he actually turned around. He said, I don't want to say anything because I don't know yet."
Which is fair enough. Yeah. But sad to see a double DNF for Williams. They were, for most part of the weekend, kind of on the pace, but at the back, but not
as good as Singapore.
Yeah,
but like
they were in and around.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
not as bad as Monza.
Yeah, Russell looked fairly pacey during practice, and they weren't propping up the timesheets all the time.
Well, again, wasn't it in qualifying where they kind of fucked Russell because it looked for a split second like he might have been able to scrape himself out of Q1 towards the end.
But they put him on track around too much traffic.
Mm-hmm.
What I did notice, and we've not seen this from Williams for ages, is they pitted Kubica for hard tyres on the second lap.
Yeah.
Rolling the dice on a strategy that might just pay off for them.
Yeah. It's
good to see them taking a chance and being a bit brave.
Mm-hmm.
Did they not pit in the following lap and put him back on medium?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So obviously it didn't work out, but.
No.
But I think that was just because they had the opportunity, and
they should have left him
out
out on hard tyres because they knew the hard tyre could do the whole race. And in the cases of where the safety car, and we got a VSC and a safety car.
Yeah.
What, one of each was it? I think we had
one of each. Pretty much straight after, because there was the.
Yeah, because as soon as the safety car finished, as soon as the virtual safety car finished, there was a full safety car, wasn't there? Because
the
Russell.
The safety car period didn't finish because Russell crashed under the virtual safety car. So
as it was ending,
the track safety car came out because that's why Russell was still going slowly.
Well, no, he had green flags in front of him. You could see the green green boxes were going, so it was racing again. As soon as he got up to racing speed, his first braking failed. Gone. But had Williams put Kubica on the hard tyres and not stopped him again and just told him to go and do the whole of the race through a VSC and a safety car,
he might have got a second point.
He may well have done. It's
Probably
hard to tell.
Have done, but
no, because of course the whole field would have bunched up behind him as well, and they would have been really close to him. But
it's good to see them doing something brave and tactical.
Worth a roll of the dice. It just they rolled the dice twice and got it wrong.
First roll could have worked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But not one to forget because they've now started doing things right.
Yeah.
Japan will be a fun one for them, won't it? But it's purely aero and chassis. Power is important, but
it's not going to be ideal.
Yeah, I would expect them to struggle there.
Yeah,
but we'll look at that next week.
We will, yeah.
All right, Alpha next. Not a great day for either driver, really.
Weekend to forget for Kimi Räikkönen.
Jump start.
Yeah,
jump started, and then was given a penalty after the false start, did the reset, too late, the lights had gone out, everyone had gone past him. And Giovinazzi was then caught up in the Grosjean Ricciardo incident at turn 4. Not his fault, not Ricciardo's fault, not Grosjean's fault, just a case that...
Pure racing incident, and there was 3 cars... There was 3 cars all at the same speed going for a bit of track weight and get 1.5 at best.
A bit like Singapore in 2017 where the Ferraris pinched Max. Not really anyone's fault, just the way it happened.
Unless you ask Ferrari.
Yeah. Just the way it happened. So, and Giovinazzi did finish the race surprisingly, but ended up last of the runners in 15th.
And Kimi, after his penalty, he was never there.
No, I can't remember what they tried with Kimi. I think they tried the whole race on mediums, didn't they?
Yeah.
Then they realised that wasn't going to work, and they had to stop him again.
Yeah, just basically an all round bad Sunday.
Yeah.
Toro Rosso again. Both cars finishing outside the points.
Given that Kvyat started on the very very back of the grid.
Yeah.
Only Albon started behind him in the pit lane.
He finished ahead of Gasly as well.
Kvyat finished 12th. I mean, he had a nightmare weekend. I think it was three internal combustion engines he used during the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
And if it can go wrong with his car, it is doing at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because when he's actually driving it, he's good. He's better than he's ever been.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. This is the best I think we've seen Danny Kvyat probably since he was picking up podiums in a Red Bull.
I'd say he's better than when he was in the Red Bull picking up podiums because he'd pick up podiums and then look a bit scruffy other races, wouldn't he?
I see what you mean.
He's more consistent.
There's a little bit of consistency there. He's racing quite well most of the time.
Yeah.
Which is rare for Danny Kvyat. Pierre Gasly, on the other hand, looked like he was doing something early doors and then just faded away.
He had almost the opposite race to Albon because I thought Gasly was looking really good for a second.
Gasly was looking great on Saturday as well.
Yeah. And even in the race, there was one point where he looked really racy. And then after Albon got past him, he just seemed to disappear. Like all the pace went.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I mean, were they trying to sort of hold him back a bit just to protect the engine because the Hondas that Toro Rosso have got at the moment just seem a little, I don't know, fragile, sensitive, exploding, leaky.
They're going to be test beds, aren't they, for the big team? But
they had a good race though, the Toro Rossos.
Yeah,
if you remember Kvyat and Gasly. I think Kvyat pushed Gasly wide, but I mean that's perfectly within. Where there's a runoff, it's perfectly within the.
I was surprised by that race because I realised Gasly's fighting for his future and wants to get himself back in Red Bull. I would have thought Red Bull would have been on the phone to the Toro Rosso and say, like, look, obviously Albon's going to be quicker than you in the full fat team. Let him past.
Well, obviously that sort of thing is against the rules, so...
Why?
Well, they had to let because they're not the same team.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to
team
collude with
rules.
other teams.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I hadn't even
So-
thought about that.
So I'm sure there is.
But Toro Rossos
bit of-
rarely hold Red Bulls up.
No. No, it's like the Ferrari
Unless they're
engine
fighting
cars
for the
used to
same
let the
seat.
Ferraris through.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that 9 times out of 10 an Alpha's not going to fight too hard. With
No.
a
Well,
Ferrari
look
either.
at Giovinazzi in Singapore. Oh, it was a little bit tough for the Mercedes to get through. When Leclerc turned up, straight through.
blind spot.
Yeah.
He was Leclerc just happened to be in his blind spot.
So I'm sure there's no phone calls, but there might be a bit of semaphore.
Yeah.
Yeah, how close are their garages? I mean, we're saying about Gasly not performing. I don't
think he's not performing. I just think he had a bad race.
I think he's driving better in the Toro Rosso than he was in the Red Bull.
Yeah, but
I agree.
just not in Russia.
Yeah.
he seems to be handling the pressure a lot better now because there's a hell of a lot less of it.
I don't know if there is less pressure, to be fair. Because
I think it's a different kind of pressure.
yeah, because when you think about being in Red Bull, yeah, the pressure is staying in Red Bull and not getting sent down to Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you're in Toro Rosso, the pressure then is staying in Formula One.
Now, I would imagine that with Verstappen next to you in the garage,
Oh no,
it's a whole different type of pressure.
I'm sure it is a different type of pressure, but that's what I'm just saying. That it's not like the pressure's off him all of a sudden.
No, I mean, there's always going to be pressure involved with being in either of those garages with having
Danny
helmet.
Kvyat's confirmed. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
If O'Ward or someone like that, Red Bull have got an eye on to put in a car next year, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that Red Bull. They haven't done it before, have they? They haven't demoted somebody and then brought them back up.
Not yet.
I think it would have to take a crazy situation.
Oh, I don't know. I think it has happened, but in the early days.
Wasn't it
before Red
Christian-
Bull, but
Christian
I think it could be
Clean?
Christian Clean.
Yeah. Wasn't it clean in the Jaguar before he ended up in the Red Bull? Is that it?
No, it was
Because he did drive for Jaguar, didn't he?
Yeah, but he had Red Bull backing.
Yeah, no, but what
But,
I mean,
yeah.
was
But-
it not that and then
I think
somewhere then
I think
back
he
to
bounced
Red Bull?
between Red Bull, Toro Rosso, and then back to Red Bull for a couple of races.
Right, okay.
I think it was. We looked at this a few shows.
We
back,
did,
and-
yeah. I think
I'll tell you why you don't remember this one too
I
well. It
wasn't
was
there.
the one that you weren't there.
Was it Sean on?
Yeah.
But that I think there's far too many young drivers around now. I don't just mean young drivers in the Red Bull program, but just like other young drivers.
I mean, well, tellingly, Franz Tost was at the podium ceremony for the F3 on Sunday when Yuri Vips won. Not Helmut Marko.
right. Okay.
Wow, that's interesting. I think it's a bit of a shame that Nick de Vries has won the F2 and he's going to Formula E.
Yeah, I do a little bit, but I think marketing. I do have that in the news, but marketing-wise, he's made a genius move there because he's just launched his, as well as Stoffel Van Dorn, just both launched their individual merchandise ranges for the Mercedes Formula E team for next year, which we
With
know.
them, of course, being both former McLaren drivers, their joint range of clothes is called Fuck 'em Over. Just thought of that one.
I like that. It's good. So yeah, I haven't got it written down in the news, but you were telling me yesterday, Paul, there's a potential name change for Toro Rosso on the cards for 21?
No, for 20.
For 2020?
Yeah, apparently they've already put the application in. They want to change, or Dietrich Mateschitz wants to change the Toro Rosso name to Alpha Torre,
Oh, I heard something about
which
this.
is Dietrich Mateschitz's Red Bull-inspired clothing line. So it's promoting another of his companies, and everything's got a bull on it somewhere.
So an alpha versus an alpha could become...
But it will be ALPHA,
yeah,
that kind of alpha.
even still.
It's like
Yeah.
Alpha Centauri without the Sen.
It seems a bit of Lotus situation again, though, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Not quite as ridiculous as that.
It's
but
not quite as ridiculous, but I mean, you say, oh, it's spelled differently. That's great. But
it's still said the same.
yeah,
Still- you're still gonna be like-
90% of talking about Formula One is
Ooh,
speech.
it's one of the alphas. Which team?
Yeah.
The Alpha...
But then we survived with Brundle and Blundell, and we survived with Massa and NASA.
And we survived
I'm
with
sure we'll survive with.
Montero, Montani, and the other one,
Montoya.
Montoya. Yeah, the famous one.
Ken.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll survive with Alpha Toro and Alpha.
I'm
Whatever
gonna-
they're called.
Yeah.
Well, that's got off to a good start
Yeah.
for any of next year's shows, hasn't
I'm
it?
just going to call them Thatchers.
Bear in
They're
mind,
the Alpha Tauri.
bear in mind that the year that you had Tiago Montero, Frank Montani, and Pablo Montoya all in Formula One, they all drove white and blue cars.
Yeah, that was confusing. Apparently the name change request is already in with the FIA to change it for next season because it's team name and chassis designation, so it may well have to be approved by the other 9 teams on the grid because it's not new ownership.
So it could be AlphaTauri STR 20 or whatever it's going to be called.
Oh, God knows.
Because it'd be STR, obviously being the Scuderia Toro Rosso is what they call their chassis at the moment.
Yeah.
And of course, with their title sponsor being Red Bull, that just really confuses things even more.
Yeah.
You know, the Red Bull Toro Rosso against the Alfa Romeo Red Bull.
AlphaTauri Red Bull.
No, that's what it is this season.
What? You just said Alfa Romeo Red Bull.
Did I say?
Yeah, that's why I said
I meant
AlphaTauri.
Aston Martin Red Bull.
Oh, okay.
So Red Bull are a team and a sponsor of a different team.
Oh, God, yeah, it's getting too confusing.
Yeah, it is weird having a different car manufacturer on a team that isn't supplying the engines for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Aston Martin, Red Bull,
Yeah.
Honda. Yeah, Aston Martin and Honda aren't really that close friends, let's be
No.
honest. They're quite bitter rivals in other forms of motorsport.
Yeah, it's quite strange. But anyway,
Anyway, tell you what.
there must be more interesting things to talk about.
Like Renault.
How about Renault? You've torn your dress.
Did you see what Mark Webber was saying about it the other day? Mark Webber was asked
no.
about Daniel Ricciardo. He said, "How do you think Daniel Ricciardo's first years going Renault?" And I quote, "I bloody told him not to leave Red Bull."
That's possibly the most Aussie answer you could get.
No, he went on to say like he really hopes he can get out of his Renault contract and go back to Red Bull if it's at all an option.
I hope Renault can pull it together and he can do well there.
I do. I still think Renault are going to pull out of the sport.
Well, they've said that they're in it for the long haul, and
Before they've said they're in it for the long haul. Before Paul.
85, 97, 2011.
Yeah.
But they claim that they will be able to cope with just supplying their own team and dedicate their resources. And
when you've got
But this is 2 years in the future, so,
Yeah.
I mean, they are looking at 2021.
yeah,
but
so-
when you've got such complicated engines, yeah, unless someone else takes a Renault engine, that's always a possibility.
A new team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Or an existing team
yeah,
whose name begins with W.
no, they've signed up to Mercedes.
Oh, they have, haven't they? Yeah.
yeah,
Forgot about that.
yeah. But
Yeah.
as we've said on this show countless times, how much is an F1 contract worth?
With engine suppliers, and
Usually
stuff like
pretty
that,
good,
Yeah,
yeah.
usually pretty good. People rarely pull out of engine contracts, do they? Unless you're Red Bull and you like continually slag your engine manufacturer off until they don't want to give you engines anymore.
Or they do, but so long as you badge them under the name of a watch
Yeah,
manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hate you that much. We'd rather people think it was a watch that was in the back of your car.
Yeah.
But yeah, how like with these complicated engines, how are Renault going to bridge the gap to the other teams with just the data from one team?
It's a good point because Honda are getting it from 2 and they've improved vastly.
Yeah, massively.
Mercedes are supposed to be getting the data from 3 teams currently. Would be 4, in 2021 when McLaren go back on board. But
I mean, it's all to do with the wording of the regulations, isn't it? Because if you read the regulations one way, it says engine manufacturers can only supply 3 teams. You look at it another way, and it says engine manufacturers can supply 3 customer teams.
Yeah.
And that's what Mercedes are working on. We might as well talk about this by supplying McLaren. That's going to be the 3rd customer team.
Yeah.
When does Force India's contract run out?
They haven't announced the new deal yet, but rumours are that they're just on the just about to sign up until 2025.
Yeah.
Right.
BWT is part of the Mercedes deal as well. So that might put a spanner in the works. Hence why I don't know why the Sport Pace is a bit more, on the card than the BWT is this year. They might have to wait.
Although the car is still predominantly BWT pink.
Yeah, I think they're actually called Racing Point. What are they called? BWT Racing Point or something like that?
No, officially it's Sport Pace or Racing Point, and BWT aren't the title sponsor anymore.
Okay.
But actually, BWT have never been a title sponsor of them.
Okay.
Because up until Force India went, they were still Sahara Force India.
They've just got big letters.
Yeah.
Yeah, big letters and a can of pink paint.
Yeah.
So BWT, with not being a title sponsor, but being the company that everyone associates with the car, really, because
Yeah.
every team in every series that's got BWT on the car is bright pink. The Ardens in F2, the I don't know, some guys twatted the barrier again in Porsche Super Cup.
Yeah. You don't get that water over here, do you? I've never seen it.
It's water technology company.
Oh, is it? It's not like an Evian thing.
No.
I thought it was a bottled water company.
Possibly, but BWT is better water technology.
Oh, right, okay.
H3O.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be drinking that.
No. Try hydrogen monoxide.
I will do. Thank you very much.
Say, that's a good sales slogan.
Try it once, you'll never want anything else again.
That's actually real, yeah.
Yeah, don't try this at home. Disclaimer. But yeah, so if Mercedes find out that they can only supply 3 cars, then does that
Would Mercedes be forced to take like Renault engines?
Well, yeah, that's not going to happen. If the deals are signed, so
then Mercedes will probably have to pay Williams a large amount of money, enough for them to buy
but
Renault
no
engines.
one's contested it, have they? No one's contested it. There's been no talk of this. This is
Yeah, but Ferrari have probably still got another 2 weeks to complain. So
yeah, I don't think that'll be a thing.
They'll wait until the first race of the season to say they can't use that engine.
Yeah, probably.
it'd be good from a personal sort of fandom point of view. It'd be great to see Williams Renault back on the grid.
No, we've had that before. It was terrible. Like and as far as Williams goes,
When Bruno Senna was in the car, 'cause it was
Yeah.
really weird because it was Williams Renault. So like, oh, hang on a second.
yeah, but I mean Williams, like the best thing they've got going for them is the engine, and even then they're down on fucking top speed because the cars are draggy. So the last thing we need for Williams is not to have Mercedes engines all of a sudden.
I like what you were saying before about what Toto said about the McLaren. Like Mercedes want a top team so that they can see how a customer uses a Mercedes engine. Clearly, that means they've lost faith in Williams and Racing Point.
Yep. I think Racing Point are at their ceiling.
I think Racing Point still don't know what they want to be.
No, because what you've got, they're Williams now. Racing Point are where Williams were for ages. And remember when I said when they were second in the championship, the only reason Williams were that high because other teams like McLaren and Ferrari had slipped. And you could say the same thing about Racing Point last year coming fourth in the championship was because other teams weren't quite.
Well, they were fifth last year, but yeah,
technically fifth.
Yeah, but they weren't
with
quite
added
where
points
they should be. So again, when you get these sort of smaller teams jumping up the grid a bit, but then like a McLaren's on a resurgency sort of thing, Renault are consistently sort of above them as well. Not closer, not as close as fucking Renault should be, but they're still up there. You're getting sort of the teams are naturally settling to where they probably should be anyway, and like McLaren should be up there. It's been an artificial thing with from a like pretty disastrous decision that's had them not be.
But even going back 10 years when Paul di Resta was driving for them, Force Indias were able to come 5th or 6th in races.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think where they can get now, and that sort of top of the midfield sort of thing, is the ceiling for Force India. Whether it's...
I think they're still finding their feet as Racing Point.
Yeah. But even that, I don't know whether it's cash. I don't know whether it's personnel. I just think there's something, regardless of Stroll money that's gone into it, yeah, because Stroll, they've got more money now than they have had before. They haven't got Red Bull money. Do you know what I mean? They haven't got.
But compared to what they had before, they're
Yeah,
probably going into the office and just going, "What? Hey,
Oh,
lads,
yeah, yeah.
look at this!"
It must be brilliant. But
Every month with our Patreon donations, we have more money than Force India had before for the last
This
2
is
years.
true. But what I mean is I think they're, unless something mega happened with a buyout and they were tied up with Audi or something like that, they're never going to make that next step.
Well, I mean, that's what they're trying to do by building the new headquarters and, quadrupling the amount of staff that they've got at the Silverstone base?
But they're still not going
they're-
to have the money to throw at it like the Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren even.
I don't know. They're trying to get to McLaren levels of available technology and available
And
bodies
investment, yeah.
and investment. And I think,
but from a point of nowhere, they're trying to do it. Whereas McLaren are a technology group; they're an engineering company already.
but 20 years ago they were still working out of a shed, so it can.
20 years ago, the technology centre was still built, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, 25 years ago they were working out of a shed before the technology centre.
Well, no, they were working out of another place in a fucking very different Formula One before spaceships became cars.
Yeah, it's not the same Formula One as it was when McLaren and Williams were at the top of it.
True.
And don't forget, like we say they were working out of sheds, but for the technology of the time, it was probably equal to what a technology centre or a Mercedes office is now. The let's say like the 1993 Williams was still a stunning piece of technology for 1993.
Yeah.
So it's all comparable.
But I think the Racing Point plan is sort of a longer term, sort of over 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
To get to that level, and any gains that they make in that time is a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get the feeling that the whole consortium is in it for the playing the long game.
I'll be interested how long Stroll money stays in that car while Stroll is being rubbish.
Or until Stroll can no longer stay
Justify
in that
his
team.
drive, which I think will be 2021.
Maybe.
Because he is, of any driver on the grid, I think Stroll has shown no signs of improvement. Like, no signs of improvement.
He's got some raw.
He's got flashes, hasn't he?
Yeah,
But they're the same races every year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it just
exactly,
happens
yeah.
He manages to be able to drive in Monza. for
He's got
instance.
the same. He's got Monza's a great example actually. He's got really good race pace.
Yeah.
Like he can put a car around a circuit almost as fast as that car can go, which is what you want from a racing driver.
Yeah.
What you also need from a racing driver is the ability to check your mirrors every now and again during a race.
And know
that's
what's wrong with your car. How many times do we hear something wrong with Stroll's car and he gives like just some sort of non-answer, as in it's broken.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't work. He's not built for Formula One. And I know there's somebody texting me right now that's going to say, "But he had a podium," and I want you to think to yourself, Pastor Maldonado won a race. Now they're deleting that message.
No, they're sending it twice in capitals.
Because capitals equal shouting on the internet.
And if it's on the internet in capitals, it must be doubly true.
Yes.
So back to Renault,
Big.
which is where we were before. The one still with the Renault engines.
Yeah.
Danny Rick had to DNF quite early just because of what happened on the first lap.
He'd lost something like a quarter of his floor, apparently.
Yeah, he'd kind of got an Alpha in it. And then a bit of a Haas in it.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually touched.
No, they
Did the Renault and the Haas... It just all seemed very sort of...
I think they both hit Giovinazzi and they both sort of pirouetted at the same time.
I didn't know if Ricciardo had caught Grosjean on the way round or out.
If anything, and this is a crazy, crazy time to be alive, but there was 3 cars involved in that accident, and I think Grosjean was the least responsible.
I think it was just a racing incident.
Yeah.
There was no response.
It was a complete race incident, But I do think if there's any blame to be apportioned,
It's not
he's
Grosjean's.
got the least of it.
I gave Grosjean a hard time last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Apparently so. Apparently
Yeah.
he swore quite a lot as well.
Yes, I did.
Heck.
No, we're back into the Canadians again.
But he didn't deserve to get shunted off the circuit on the first lap of the Russian Grand Prix
No, he didn't.
because the other Haas had quite a good race. But we're still talking about
We're
Renault.
still talking about Renault.
He had plenty of laps to crash all on his own.
Hulk was kind of well down at one point, but did come back and find himself getting a point.
He rescued a point, didn't he? He fought his way back through a little bit after I think he was a victim of the safety car pit stops. Did he stop just before the safety car?
Even with his point, he referred to the race as horrendous and a race that they can take no positives from because they deserved much more.
Oh dear. Okay.
They were looking good in qualifying again. The car is starting to look better.
Car is starting to look better, and they're looking pretty good. This is going to be a really good fight for fourth in the championship.
Do you think? I think they're too far behind now. Over 30 points behind.
I think they might be now,
when
but
you consider what points they're going for,
yeah,
might as well be
Yeah,
race
but-
wins.
Remember how often both Norris and Sainz end up retiring.
Yeah,
and how close each team is to their maximum use of components, which is going to come into it in the last few races.
Yeah,
And
but
just
if he-
how much good luck Lando Norris has.
well, this is why I think he must be having a turnaround of look, at least for crashes. Even though he was done over by the safety car, wasn't he this weekend?
Yeah, a little, yeah.
I mean, it could come down. Fourth place in the championship this year could come down to who has the least bad luck over the last 5 races.
Yeah, could do.
Yeah, all it takes is one spectacular. I mean, imagine if Hulk could have held on to that second position in Germany. That's 18 points there. They would have been so much tighter. I mean, something like that could happen again.
In Singapore, if Hulk could have managed to get past Grosjean and then
Yeah,
get the net lead of the race,
He would have won the race.
Yeah, I think the other thing to think with those teams is the drivers, and I think I can't not see Hulkenberg drive and think what a shame it is that he's probably going to fall out of Formula One at the end of the year. But he can't be in the right headspace at the minute, given what's gone on with him contract wise.
I mean, he's staring unemployment in the
Yeah.
face, and you're not gonna do
No,
your
of
best
course
when you know
not.
there's very little hope.
Danny Ricciardo must be one look at a banana away from a nervous breakdown at the moment when you think what's happened to his career. Whereas you, on the other side, you've got McLaren, which is probably a better car than the Renault, so generally faster, and you've got 2 drivers that are really positive.
It seems to be
on a
circuit
proper
dependent.
Upshift.
Yeah, it seems to be circuit dependent with that
It does
car.
seem to be circuit dependent, but they have seemed consistently fast, haven't they, since summer break or just before the summer break?
Yeah. But I mean, an okay race for Renault should have been better. Ricardo would probably have scored more points than Hulkenberg did as well.
Yeah.
But 1 point is not enough for Renault at the moment.
No.
Then we move on to everybody's favourite team.
Haas. Like you said, Grosjean was a complete passenger in that one. Wasn't a great deal he could have done.
No.
Everyone's expecting.
I might have put on the live blog, karma at first.
I must admit, when I saw him crash, I turned around to my dad and said, "What the fuck are Haas doing?" And then it slowly started to dawn on me, this might not actually be his fault this time.
And I will take complete guilt in doing that poll before the race on Twitter saying are they going to look like rock stars or wankers, and 92% said wankers.
Would you like us to do this one's for the listeners? If you want us to carry on with rock stars and wankers every race until Magnussen and Grosjean are no longer a pairing, then
I think it should be part of our predictions.
Rockstars and Wankers sounds like a 90s British sitcom.
yeah, it
Yeah,
does a
would,
little
it be,
bit, yeah.
would it be on Channel 4?
Bit like Game
about,
On.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Channel 4 about 10 o'clock at night.
I don't know. It's got the potential to be a really bad,
BBC 3.
really bad tribute band show.
Maybe.
So Grosjean, short race, 4 turns. And God, that headrest got some distance when he chucked it out the car.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
a steering wheel at first.
That's thousands.
Yeah.
But Magnussen, on the other hand,
Magnussen crossed the line 8th.
demoted to 9th.
Got hit with the penalty, which he didn't know why he'd got it, but if he'd have watched F2 earlier, that morning. I mean, look at what they've done to Mazepin after he.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest,
what has happened to Mazepin? I know. I read it.
For anybody who doesn't know,
harsh penalty.
Yeah, Mazepin and Matsushita had a huge accident because Jack Aitken missed the apex.
Mazepin and Aitken missed the apex.
But Aitken went the right way around the bollard, and as he tried to rejoin, Mazepin was on the wrong side of the bollard, touched Jack Aitken,
as he was overtaking him.
Spat himself across the track into Matsushita.
Yeah, I saw the incident. I don't know what the penalty was. What's he got?
4 points on his licence and a 15-place grid drop.
Ooh.
So may as well not bother qualifying for the next race.
Yeah. That's like a broken bone away from a race ban, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, slightly worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was good to see Matsushita tweeting from hospital.
Yeah. What I think as well is
still in his fire suit. Nobody brought him any PJs.
What I think as well is
quite
given what happened in Spa with Correa and Antoine Hubert, had that incident not happened, I don't think the penalty would have been as harsh. But I mean, what happened in Spa is still very fresh in everyone's minds.
Yeah.
You cannot be seen.
What happened in Spa probably wasn't preventable, but more or less the same thing could have happened in Sochi,
but
that would have been preventable.
It was preventable because there was dangerous driving going on.
The
Somebody
only
was
thing
not
to
following the
think-
rules.
Yeah, the only thing to think about the Spa one is, I can't off the top of my head think of another circuit where that accident would even be possible apart from on that point where you've got such high speeds that go into barriers that can spit you back onto the track with cars that are coming up at such high speed blind until they get to you. You know, it was just a crazy unfortunate event. I don't think that accident could have had that type of outcome.
No, but given that it was still so recent.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's the same reason they took the commentators took such good care of not talking about the crash and not showing it until everyone knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's still an open wound, isn't it?
Yeah. The good news for Juan Manuel Correa, of course, is that his lungs appear to have healed quite a lot faster than was expected.
It's good you need them.
And that's what was holding off on him having surgery on his legs. And he's been transferred to a different hospital in the UK where he was undergoing the operation to repair his legs yesterday. I've not seen an update on him so far.
So get well soon.
He's chosen. They actually offered to amputate his foot to speed up the healing process, and he's opted to keep it because he wants to keep his career.
Johnny Herbert in it, like it.
Yeah.
So all the best, Juan Manuel Correa. And as soon as we find anything else out, we'll put it on Twitter.
Johnny Herbert's manager stopped him getting his feet amputated, didn't he? Like in the hospital, like because they had him down for like an amputation.
Isn't he 2 inches shorter than he would have been?
His manager turned around and said, "No, you can't amputate his feet. He's a racing driver," and that's the only reason that they didn't amputate.
Bloody hell!
He lost 2 inches.
Always have your manager as next of kin, people.
We'll move on to Racing Point next.
I just want to say Magnussen drove brilliantly.
He had a great race.
He did actually have a good race.
We beat on Haas drivers quite often, and especially Kevin Magnussen, but he was very, very good in Russia.
Well, hopefully this was that.
Apart from that
car,
bit,
wasn't it? This is like the hybrid car they had this weekend.
A Spec 1.5.
Well, it's not even that. It's bits from the first car before the European season when everything went to tits, and then bits of the new upgrade. And they picked the bits that work out of those two cars.
Kind of a greatest hits package.
Yeah, and it seems to have sorted the problems out for them.
At one circuit. We'll see where they are next week.
At one
But it was nice to see Magnussen not falling away, as when the race started.
Yeah.
He was roughly up there for most of it.
Well, I thought as soon as I saw him up there in the points, I thought, I'd be last by fucking 20 laps.
Exactly. Yeah, so did I.
Actually, before we do Racing Point, talking about cars getting changed, Kimi this weekend was driving chassis number 6.
Oh, wow, okay.
Alpha have gone through a fuckload of cars this season.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kimi's chassis number 6, or the whole team?
The whole team's chassis number 6. Most teams are on to maybe 3, occasionally 4. But yeah, Alpha have now used 6 chassis during the course of the season.
Chassis number 6 also sounds like a 90s Britpop band.
I thought it sounded like a B-side, if I'm perfectly honest.
From Manson.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, now we'll do Racing Point. Stroll.
Just Stroll. We've
Yeah,
already
just
we
Stroll.
kind of.
Yeah. There's no improvement. There's no drop off.
I just want to apologise to our listeners if they can hear the roaring in the background. We are recording this in the middle of a storm, which is worsening as we're recording.
Apparently so. 2 yellow warnings. I'd have thought that would have been 2 yellows and a red.
Yeah.
2 yellow warnings, then it gets sent off.
Well, I've been watching the vine outside the window here. It's now swinging quite violently in the wind.
No, it just keeps repeating every 15 seconds.
Don't
No.
tell people I hung Jeremy Vine in my garden.
Vines are only 6. Vines were only 6 seconds, and Vine is dead.
Did
Jeremy Vine, on the other hand, also dead.
Can we?
No.
No.
Go on.
All right. Anyone see the end of at the end of qualifying, or anyone hear it when Stroll got knocked out at the end of his qualifying? Did this huge apology over the radio? So, oh, sorry, I should have done better. I don't know what went wrong. Pass on my apology to the team, and only got back from the pit walls. Roger that.
Isn't that just a Canadian hello?
No, this is his problem. I don't know what went wrong.
Yeah.
When any other driver, Lando Norris in Singapore is a perfect example here. Q1 was great, Q2 was better, Q3 I overdrove it a bit and made too many mistakes, and then in trying to catch the time up, I made more, so I actually ended up losing time. He knew where it went wrong.
It's like what they say
Lewis
about
Hamilton.
footballers, isn't it? Like they say, great footballers, you could pause a football match at any moment, and they'd be able to tell you where all the other players are. And it's the same when you get great racing drivers; they'll sit down to do a talk after the race, and it's like, yeah, how do you know what was going on?
I remember seeing this crisp packet in the crowd, and that was wobbling a bit. So I thought, there'll be a side draft at this point.
Was it Jensen Button you said that was picking the tyres out? That someone had like 6 cars behind it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, in his mirrors on the formation lap.
Yeah.
I remember that. But also, slight local reference here. Robert Dunlop, when doing the TT over here, said when he was going so fast, he's concentrating so hard on where the bike was going, that he was able to pick faces out in the crowd. And he remembers seeing somebody picking their nose when he was going past it, and looked out for them the next lap to see if they were still picking their nose.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At like 180 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Does he not realise that that's going to be 20 minutes later?
Yeah, well, probably, yeah. But
Everyone likes a good route around, though.
every
But
now
not for 20 minutes.
Usually stop when the bleeding starts.
I could do 10 minutes aside easy.
But yeah, I
Tweezers.
think you're right about Stroll's problem.
yeah.
He just
Talent.
he just doesn't seem to know what the car does. He gets in, presses the go fast pedal, presses the go slow pedal,
Yeah. And I'm going to say here,
turns the wheel in front of him, and
Well, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Right? He's probably not a bad racing driver. If he was doing like WEC or something like that, he'd probably have a fine WEC career. He's not an elite racing driver.
no. As
He's
I said,
not
he's
one of the 20 best drivers in the world.
there's no point in him having mirrors on his car because he doesn't use them anyway. This
No.
has been proven time and time again. The amount of times that people go to sort of show Lance Stroll, I'm here, I'm a danger to overtake it, and he just plows into them, or does something really silly.
I think that he's on a par with people like Grosjean and Magnussen, people who aren't consistent,
I think
who can
I
race.
think you're being kind.
Grosjean's driven into a wall with no help at least twice.
He's also had a load of a few podiums when he had the car underneath him to do it.
Pastor Maldonado won a
No!
race.
I think Pastor Maldonado. But we're not talking about potential world champions. I think Pastor Maldonado was a better driver than Lance Stroll. I'm struggling to think of somebody.
Pasta was fast and crashy.
If you take Narain Carter-Cayan, I would say was on par with Stroll.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Said Narain Carter-Cayan.
But that,
I think Stroll's better than that. Stroll has the flashes of being a proper racing driver, and
do you not think
He's fast.
and then lots of times when he's not.
But you say he's
And there's
on
been-
par with Magnussen, but I would say Magnussen's drive this weekend is better than anything Stroll's done in a Formula 1 car, even his podium, because he got his podium because everyone in front of him decided to fucking explode.
there were still plenty of people behind him.
Yeah, but the way it worked wasn't the way it worked with pit stops and stuff like that. There was such a massive gap.
There was good luck in his podium.
Yeah.
He didn't get second place because he was the second fastest driver on the day.
No.
But, sorry, third place, wasn't it?
Because
I always forget about Bottas
Bottas
overtaking him.
nailed
He
it.
got third place because he was the second fastest driver on that straight.
Yeah, I'd argue that if it was any other driver that was in his car, he probably wouldn't have lost the position to Bottas.
I don't think
'Cause
so. But
Bottas got it on the last lap, didn't he?
Bottas
Yeah.
was
But
on the
so
line.
fast.
On the last line, but he put his car was in qualifying mode.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what I mean. But because he got it on the last lap, I think over the course of the race, any other driver in that car would have been quick enough to not get got on the last lap.
Maybe. But we're talking a lot about Lance Stroll here. I want to say that Sergio Perez had a kind of Alonso-style race.
He had a great race. That was the best race of the year for him.
Yeah, I think so. And
The only guy that had a better race than him this weekend was Albon.
and he seemed very confused by the whole thing. Sergio Perez, he was just like, "Whoa, thought we might be able to do better than that."
Yeah, it seemed
7th place, and an almost best of the rest.
it was one of the drives that got him a McLaren drive,
Yeah,
like back when he was in Sauber.
Yeah.
It was one of the drivers. That
Vintage
helped destroy
Perez.
his career.
vintage Perez.
Yeah. It's like we said. I think we said when he re-signed the contract, it's a perfect. He's the perfect guy for Force India.
Well, those Racing Point, but those two drivers were in those seats for 3 years? Next 3 years, but that's a very long term.
I don't think they've announced any dates for Stroll.
I think Stroll will be out in 2021. I think he'll have another mediocre season next year. Mediocre to bad season.
Yeah,
So a good Lance Stroll year. And then he'll be out in 2021.
I don't know.
Probably along with the Stroll father.
I mean, the good thing for the Racing Point consortium is that Stroll isn't, or the Stroll family isn't providing all the money.
No, but a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
But I don't see.
I could imagine that his dad is that Lawrence Stroll is looking to build a championship-winning racing team, to build a Red Bull, and if Lance Stroll isn't the driver for that,
so.
I think you're right that he wouldn't stay in the team.
I think there's two things. There's two things that could be the case. You're right, and he's trying to build a championship-winning racing team like Red Bull, and that means Stroll will go, or he's just bought into a team to try and give his son a slightly better car on a Formula One grid, and if he goes. It'll be one of those two options. Either way, Stroll's gone.
but a great performance by Perez,
Yes,
and was candidate for driver of the day.
absolutely.
Yeah, it was one of those got on with it ones.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
Almost Sainz-like.
But we see it all
But
the
not
time,
as good as
don't we,
Sainz.
with Force India or fucking piss it with Racing Point. But they started so badly this year that it hasn't worked for them. But they progressed really well through a season. But it's just took them longer this time round. And like you say, it's probably something to do with the fact that they were fucking done, weren't they, before the season started?
yeah.
So
You know, how much time did they lose on developing this year's car?
lots, by the looks of it, about half a season.
I would say about 2/3, and now we're now seeing where this car should have been in, I don't know, Silverstone.
Yeah, probably.
Right, are we sitting comfortably because it's McLaren next?
Very, very good performance.
Yeah, they did all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Move on.
yeah, Red Bull.
Unfortunate for Lando.
Just pitted before the safety cars, didn't he? So
he
that's
should
where.
have been behind Sainz, really, shouldn't he? If everything had shook out for him.
Well, look, when you look at how the start played, I mean, the qualifying was great, but I mean, if you look at where the start played out, the way that the start played out, after turn 1, Sainz was ahead of Hamilton.
If Sainz
And-
would have covered the inside,
He had a chance to.
he'd have kept that position. I don't know whether he was surprised at the start he'd got and was just trying to make sure he didn't lose any places, rather than thinking, if I just move to the right here, I can get into the
I don't know if he was sure that he was entirely ahead of Hamilton,
no,
but
he
he
was-
actually was.
He was totally ahead
Yeah.
by a good half a car length.
Yeah.
He fully done him.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was all down to Hamilton was on the mediums, wasn't he? And the
Yeah,
softs, so
exactly,
it was a
yeah.
massive advantage.
And
there.
but at one point as well, Norris was there ahead of Bottas.
Yes,
So you had both McLarens overtook both Mercedes, and there was only Hamilton between them, and they were running third and fifth for all of 2 seconds.
interesting enough, Sainz believes that the McLaren's half a second a lap off being able to fight the Mercedes. See, because that's why he didn't put any fight up with Bottas, was it?
He put a bit of fight. It was a few laps that
yeah,
Bottas was fighting him because, of course, after the whole turn 2 thing,
Yeah.
Vettel ahead of Leclerc, etc.
But
But-
yeah, he was saying that if they were half a second quicker, it would be worth fighting them. But
Mm.
otherwise, you're just going to lose too much time.
Yeah, but it was it's a spirited performance from both McLaren drivers.
Do you reckon a Mercedes engine might be worth half a second?
Don't know.
Not that much.
No, probably not. Definitely not this season, and
No.
probably not in 2 seasons' time.
But a Mercedes engine plus the kind of extra development you can do from a decent World Constructors' Championship finish
Yeah.
might be able to get a little bit closer.
4/10.
This is the first season that McLaren have scored over 100 points since
McLaren Mercedes.
since 2014, sorry.
Yeah.
2014 with Button and Magnussen, they got over 100 points. It's the first time that they've hit the 100-point mark. As we were saying before, they are 34 points ahead of Renault now in the championship. It was a good points haul for McLaren to get Lando 8th and Carlos up into, was it 6th?
Sixth, yeah.
6th, yeah. So it was a really, really good performance. Carlos even said that he enjoyed fighting the Mercedes at the beginning, but enjoyed fighting the Red Bulls later on as well after the safety car restart, because obviously Albon got past him. And I think really Albon possibly the only driver who could take driver of the day away from Carlos Sainz. Personally, I know we all know
Albon was driver of the day.
we all know who the official driver of the day was.
Yeah.
Bit weird, but
The greatest driver in Formula One, worth 2 Ayrton Sennas.
What, Rio Haryanto?
Yep.
worth 2 Ayrton Sennas. Ayrton Senna being rhyming slang for a tenner, so
Yeah.
he's worth 20 quid.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's worth your weight in Sennas, is what he is.
Yeah, we'll do Red Bull next. I mean, that performance by Albon was nothing short of spectacular.
Pit lane to 5th. Oh, okay, slight shenanigans, VSC, and then full safety car.
You play to your conditions.
Exactly.
I'm
you
throwing
played
this
to-
out there. I don't think if Verstappen had started from the pit lane, I don't think he'd have got any higher.
No, exactly. I'm completely with you on that.
I think he would have overtaken Albon.
Yeah, you might have a point there. I mean, Albon completely wrote the car off in
qualifying.
in
Q1.
qualifying in Q1.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it was a bit harsh because straight away the internet was just like, and another driver goes through the Red Bull meat grinder.
I know, yeah.
But then on Sunday he goes and does that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm still saying it. Like, I think if
That's
when he
him.
gets embedded in that team going into next year, and he's used to driving in Red Bull proper,
Yeah.
I think he might be able to give Magnussen a headache next year.
Magnussen. You mean
I think he
Verstappen?
will be
Verstappen.
able to beat Magnussen
Yeah,
next year.
So sorry, I'm getting confused with my drivers, which had rubbish Formula One dads.
Let's just hope there isn't a next generation of Katayama or Inui.
Oh no.
But yeah, I mean, Albon ploughed through the field basically in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took him a little while to get past Pierre Gasly, as we were saying before. I mean, it was a little bit tentative. They're both fighting for the seat. But what matters more than anything is the result. When you look that Gasly finished 9 places behind Albon.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But the funny thing is, when Albon was kept behind Gasly, I turned around to my dad and said, "Albon's having an absolute horror today. Like, this is." I was reasonably worried, and then I took my eye off it for a minute and just forgot what was going on. Oh, right, okay, right. He's in the points now. That's interesting.
Yeah, as soon as he got past Gasly, it was like he'd been completely
Yeah.
uncorked, and
Yeah.
he was just passing drivers for fun.
Mm.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good for him. I'd say he's the favourite for the seat that he's in next year.
I think if it's not him that's in that Red Bull, we're going to have a massive shock with somebody going to Red Bull.
I think this drive cemented his seat for Red Bull
Yeah,
next
no,
year.
but that's for me. I think the only reason he won't be in that car is if something crazy happens and Vettel goes back to Red Bull.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way they're going to replace Gasly with. They're going to replace Albon with Gasly.
No.
Now,
Not at the start of the year.
no, not the start. I mean, yeah, sorry. There's no way in the immediate future that this is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Australia Red Bull, slightly different to Belgium Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably different water supply. It all tastes different when it... Anyway.
But they need some better water technology then.
I mean, to be fair to Red Bull though, as soon as they get the drivers, like two drivers performing in their team, they do like a lockdown Red Bull team, don't they? They
Yeah.
like consistency. So as long as he doesn't do stupid things, he should be great.
Yeah.
Sorry, just reading a message.
Tell you what, if Vettel did go back to Red Bull, that means Gasly is proper fucked.
Because Albon would be in the
Yeah.
Toro Rosso, yeah.
Well, I don't know, there'd be a Ferrari seat available for him.
Not for Gasly.
No, but that would be Hulkenberg's.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned Verstappen yet. Didn't struggled after qualifying. Another new engine, and I've lost count of how many he's had.
Not sure, but he couldn't keep pace with the top two teams, the Ferraris and the
They
Mercedes.
didn't they?
Yeah, in the race.
Do you think Mercedes have gained pace or Red Bull have lost some somewhere?
I don't think Mercedes have lost pace. I've got a theory about Mercedes, but we know we're not talking about them just yet.
I think Red Bull were a little bit down on pace where we thought they were going to be this weekend, and I just don't think it was a suitable circuit for them for a change.
But we thought they were going to win in Singapore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's been such a Red Bull circuit.
Yeah, but Singapore and Russia are quite similar in circuitry, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, no, but it has historically been a good circuit for Red Bull.
Yeah.
And they seem to have sort of drifted.
I don't think Red Bull have drifted. I think Ferrari are a lot further ahead than
Right.
we had any.
Yeah,
Any clue that they
idea
would
that
be.
they would be.
Because at one point earlier this season, we were saying that we thought Red Bull were going to usurp Ferrari, and then Ferrari went and changed something on the front of their car.
Yeah, the new Ferrari floor. Nobody saw Singapore coming from Ferrari.
No, nobody at all.
Obviously, with these two circuits having pretty similar characteristics, it's just thrown a complete spanner in the predictions.
Yeah. Have we got Ferrari next?
We have got Ferrari next. This is going to be...
Well, before we get into that, because I just had a Ferrari question there,
Yeah.
like talking about pace, which and it fits with what we were just talking about. You like the new floor and stuff like that, and the things that have happened to the Ferrari. Do we think that that's just fixed the tyre problems? That this year's Ferrari has always been this fast from testing, but it's just been the tyres that they've had to try and get their car to work with.
It's not just been the tyres. There's been a lack. There's been a lack of downforce as well,
Which is why they were good at this low speed, low downforce
But there
circuits.
wasn't in testing. They were fucking rocket ships in testing, and then they got to Australia, and the wheels fell off the whole thing.
The thing is, though, in testing, you can post the fastest times in the history of that circuit, and then you find out that they were running on a thimble full of fuel.
But think about the time of year. Think about the time of year when you're doing testing, and it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think they found out they had the tyre problems until they get to hot Australia and then hot races. So I think the Ferrari has always been as quick as it is now, but they've had to manage to get that car to work with the tyres, which bodes well for Ferrari going into next year.
I think there's a bit of that, and I think they've
obviously
got
found
more engine
something.
power than
Yeah.
they did have. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
Which means if they've got the oomph for the straight line speed, then they can turn the downforce up.
I've got the theory there is I don't think they've necessarily got a massive advantage engine wise over Mercedes. But I think Mercedes got the balance wrong between aero and drag this year. I think because they've been used to that power advantage for so long, I think they decided to drift more towards getting the chassis working more and getting the aero working more with it, and they've gone too far one way.
I think they've gone from having a car that can win races from the front
Yeah.
to a car that can win if it's starting in second.
Yes. Yeah.
And that will mean a
There
completely
is-
different package.
There is
Yeah.
some compromises that they've had to make for that.
Well, like this is what I said like last year. Last week when you weren't here. I think Mercedes have built a bad Mercedes car this year in comparison to other cars they've built, and I think people need to remember that when they're looking at like what Ferrari are doing now and like what's going to happen next year and like Leclerc challenging Hamilton and stuff, because if they've built a bad car this year and they're still cruising to a constructors and a drivers world championship, I don't think for any split second that they're going to make the same mistakes they've made next year.
And here comes my theory. Last week, Dan, I said that Mercedes are probably tied up this year already. Have they been ballsy enough to go, we've probably got both championships in the bag, let's not work any more on this car and focus solely on next year's car right now so that we've got the jump on everyone else, because we don't need to work, because we did the work early doors on this one. Now I thought after last week's podcast what Lee was saying about Mercedes building the bad car, having to drill holes in the top of it, you know, for extra cooling and things, and having to take bits off, and
Very un-Mercedes like.
yeah it is a little bit. What if they didn't build this car to win races as such? Of course they wanted to, but they built a car to win races. Of course they didn't want to win the championship. What if they built it for complete reliability? Because I don't think we've seen a Mercedes failure all year.
I don't think, did we last year?
I'm not sure.
I don't think Hamilton had a DNF last year.
They know what their power unit, and obviously we've seen Mercedes failures in Williams and the Racing Points earlier this year.
Last DNF I can remember for Hamilton from a Mercedes failure was 2016.
What I'm saying is the when he was Malaysia when he caught fire.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is Vettel retired because his MG UK gave out. Was he pushing that car just a little bit too hard?
Did he have it when he was pulling the gap on Leclerc? Did
When
he
he
have
was
it on
sure-
super mode?
When he was setting
I think
fastest
that's-
lap after fastest lap after fastest lap, and then he's like, "Oh, fucking bring back the V12s."
I don't. The only
Because
thing I'd argue with that
he-
is I think we'd have heard radio telling them to turn the engine down.
Possibly,
If
unless
he'd
it,
gone rogue and gone for the high settings.
yeah, but I mean, if it was something, there's so much that can go wrong on a hybrid power unit
Yeah.
that if something was just not quite 100% for whatever reason, he pushed that Ferrari too hard and it broke down on him
Yeah.
after he'd had his pit stop.
I think it's just an unfortunate coincidence that it broke down on a race.
Possibly. Now, Mercedes are lagging behind Ferrari in terms of straight line speed, not in terms of like in general race pace or anything like that. They seem very, very close. I think they were a little bit flattered in some cases where we were watching, seeing the Ferraris just disappear in Belgium, for example.
Yeah.
Under DRS at Monza, they weren't even getting anywhere near them.
Well, you can look at the gap between Mercedes and Ferrari on the twisty turny bits is still quite big, isn't it? You know, like Mercedes are making a lot of time up, like on the twisty bits.
I think Mercedes have built a car that they know can get them to the end of the year without any penalties, knowing full well that Ferrari are pretty close to the bone when it comes to as much as their.
Well, you got to think Vettel's going to have a penalty next weekend, haven't you?
Well, he'll have
unless that component was due for a change.
Yeah, he'll have a new MG UK. I think this will probably be his last one. I'm not entirely sure, but Ferrari are going to have to play it close. You know, if they want to win the rest of these races. Mercedes, we don't have to.
I mean, what was it last year? Mercedes were only changing some of the engine components just because they
ran out of time to change it to the last to
Yeah.
the last power unit. They were like, our third generation is absolutely fine, but we've got to stick the fourth one in at some point.
Yeah, I think there's obviously something with Mercedes qualifying car this year too. You know, I'm people are going to shout at me here. I don't believe, all things being equal, Leclerc's faster than Hamilton on one lap.
And
I don't think anyone in Formula One's faster than Hamilton in one lap.
And I also think that at Abu Dhabi, the final race of the season, Mercedes will finally turn around and go, yeah, just let it go.
Doesn't matter if we finish or not. Let's turn it up.
Just let it go. Just show them for this one race just exactly how much we've been holding
They've done
back.
that before, haven't they?
Did it with Brazil when
Yeah.
Hamilton was started from the pit lane and he
Yeah.
he ended up like 3 seconds behind the race winner.
Yes.
Like-
yeah.
So I think Mercedes are going to do the same thing again. I think they'll get to Abu Dhabi and just be like, let it rip. Just go. Just embarrass them.
I also don't think we've seen. It's almost like we've had, the Hamilton we get when he's won the world championship. He doesn't need to worry anymore.
Yeah,
I feel like we've had that Hamilton all year.
I think so. Yeah,
I don't think he knows he doesn't need to fight. I think also like good sportsmen know that they can't be on all the time. So if you know you can perform to like 50% of what you usually do, and you're still going to do enough, it must take the pressure off him. Like Mika Hakkinen said how difficult it was to win 2 championships.
yeah.
And that's why he decided to take the year off and that
Yeah.
to be his career off. You can't. I always think that maybe this championship for Lewis, although he's winning a world championship, it's almost kind of an off year, isn't it? It's like a break.
Yeah,
Almost.
he is now the driver with the most world championships on the grid.
Yeah,
He doesn't need to win this one, which makes it easier to win it.
yeah.
But then you look at the race wins this year and you look at Vettel's won 1 race, Leclerc's won 2, Verstappen's won 2, and Bottas has won 2,
Yeah,
and then Hamilton's won 9.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think people have got short memories in Formula One.
Yeah.
So this is like Ferrari have had a couple of good races.
Yeah, you remember when Pastor Maldonado won a race?
Yes. People have got short memories, and I remember you when Pastor Maldonado won a race, you put the question forward as whether he was a championship contender or not.
I think I might have been taking the piss.
No, you weren't.
I was.
You weren't.
That was the year that we had like 8 different winners in the
Yes,
first
yeah,
8
yeah.
races there, wasn't it? You know what I mean? That was a proper open year of Formula 1. But the
Are we able to do sarcasm in a text message?
Lewis Hamilton.
It was on the podcast.
No, we didn't. We weren't doing it then.
The podcast then.
Oh, weren't we?
No,
I
that was
thought we were doing
that
the
was
podcast.
7 years ago.
I've just been talking about it then.
The Hamilton can't win the championship in Japan because the gap, even if he wins the race but has the fastest lap and Bottas retires, he still doesn't have enough points to win the championship. But he's, what is it, something like, I can't remember what the gap is, but there's only 125 points on the table, and he's, I think,
130.
no, 129 if you include fastest laps.
Yes. Don't know where I was
There's
getting.
only four or 5 races
It's
left.
5 races, so it's 100.
So it is
Yeah.
130 then, yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you include fastest laps.
Yeah.
130 points on the table. And Lewis Hamilton is 72 points in the lead.
Did Vettel pit to try and get the fastest lap? Because they were talking about it for a while. Did he try?
Vettel.
Not Vettel. Verstappen.
No, he didn't pit.
No, right. Because there was talks about it for a minute, wasn't
Because
it?
they
I
were
was
on to
quite
Lewis
surprised.
they're on to Lewis Hamilton saying that Verstappen might get the fastest lap. He's got a free pit stop behind him, but he
Yeah.
never did.
Weird.
He'd run out of softs.
Oh, had he? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
he only had used softs left. That's why they didn't bring him in for it, because they weren't 100% sure if the tyres had enough life in them to do it.
And that's another thing that sort of leans towards my theory as well, because when after that message we were like, ooh, what's going to go on here? And then Leclerc put in Leclerc asked what the fastest lap was, and his radio message came back 36.3, 36.3, and Leclerc was like, right, okay, I'll go for fastest lap then. Within seconds, Hamilton crossed the line at 35.7.
Yeah.
Just like, well, yeah. And then Leclerc went round and beat the 36.3. Too late.
But didn't beat the 35.7.
No.
This is why. Are we doing Mercedes and Ferrari?
Well,
together
it's
like
all
this?
sort of
we
balled in
sort of
together.
launched into the top 3 plus battle.
Ferrari is a bit of I don't know what I think about Ferrari at the moment with the whole sort of, I think the BBC is saying it's Armageddon at Ferrari,
Right.
where
Do we all agree though that they left Vettel to hung out to dry so they could get the undercut for Leclerc?
there was an agreement pre-race.
Right.
The agreement.
I have issues with this agreement because Vettel said in the pen that some of them were said, but he wasn't sure, and it's okay. That could be all patter. I want to know what how you can have an agreement, because he didn't give Vettel a toe. He was first. He had no option but to give somebody a toe. Do you know what I mean?
There was an agreement that he would tow Vettel to get
this
past
is what we
Hamilton,
believe.
and that's exactly what happened.
But this is what we believe. We don't know that. That's what Leclerc said. What Vettel said was very different.
Which is why Leclerc left the door open for Vettel into turn 2, so that the Ferraris would be 1-2 going into the first braking zone.
Palmer said if that was the plan to get that, because Leclerc had started on pole, that he was going to have the lead of the race. Essentially, there's no need to let Vettel overtake him. You have Leclerc take the inside line. You have,
but with a tow, you'd be much faster. So let him pass Leclerc.
But they had the tyres on them. As Palmer was saying, he said you always go. He actually said on Saturday, this is what the Ferraris would end up doing, is that they block the grid off, and they would like go into the corner together, and then take the race from there. There was no reason for Leclerc to let Vettel past, or for no reason for Ferrari to let Vettel pass to keep the positions.
But we're pretty sure it was a plan, because within 5 laps the radio message came on, right, you're going to swap next lap, and then Vettel went, oh no, we'll leave it a couple of laps.
But why did they do it?
Let him catch me.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a bloody stupid move to do the pass on track, and that would have just brought the Mercedes closer.
But this was the stupid
because
thing,
Hamilton was sticking with them.
Yeah. Well, this was the stupid thing. Hamilton was sticking with them on the medium tyre.
As soon as he got up to heat, yeah.
Fast forward the race when Vettel's out, and the Mercedes have pitted under the virtual safety car and took the lead. They fucking pit Leclerc again, because they knew Leclerc wouldn't have had the pace on the medium tyres.
I think they did that because they were in. It was a free pit stop.
Yeah, no, but they absolutely did it because there was nothing.
It wasn't free.
Yeah, because
he gave away a place.
Yeah.
But they thought that he'd have the pace on the softs to get the place back and to go for the win.
Which means he wouldn't have had the pace on the mediums. So if the virtual safety car hadn't come out, he'd have still been done by Mercedes on the soft tyre.
Yeah.
They lost that race on Saturday.
And Mercedes probably won it by doing the mediums. I agree with Lee. I think the tyres, regardless of whether or not Vettel had retired, it was going to be... I think the Ferraris were pushing too hard on the softs, and they would have struggled to keep up that pace on the mediums. By which point Hamilton and Bottas were doing quite decent laps. Well, Bottas was miles behind by this point.
Well,
but I think
6/10, I reckon the mediums were off the softs, didn't they, this weekend?
But I also think that was part of the plan. I think Bottas's gap back 10 seconds was so that when Ferrari pitted, Bottas could just piss about and hold them back, whilst Hamilton built a bit of a lead.
I just don't think Bottas was as quick as Hamilton on the mediums.
Yeah, but I also think it was part of the plan.
Yeah.
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
He wasn't as quick, so Mercedes thought, let's make use of that.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what Dan's explained it much better. But the...
Doesn't say much when he does. It's gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Bottas's defending in those closing laps was phenomenal.
I thought Leclerc was going to nail him. I thought there's no way Bottas is going to keep...
Every time I watched Bottas leave that last corner, he took such a different line out that last corner and was on the power so much earlier than Leclerc. It must have been saving battery power or something.
Right.
But he had Leclerc almost every time was running wide at the last turn, trying to go, carry more speed in.
Scruffy, as much as he radioed in saying everything was fine, he was dead scruffy all race after Vettel wouldn't let him past. He was ragged as anything behind Vettel. But this is what I'm confused
He was
about.
on the curbs a lot as well.
Yeah, this is what I'm confused about. If you take all talks of the pre-arrangement out with Ferrari, like take that all away, Vettel was notably quicker than Leclerc, and you can say that there was turbulent air to start with there, but at one point Vettel was 4 seconds ahead of his teammate. You know, he pulled 4 seconds on Leclerc. Now, I question Ferrari because let's say Vettel doesn't finish. Let's say Vettel doesn't retire. They've done this swap. They've given places and time away to Mercedes. They're going to come out next to behind each other. Vettel's going to close up on Leclerc because he was clearly quicker during the race. Ferrari have given themselves yet another headache because what do? Do they swap the cars around now? They swap the cars around. Well done. You lost the 4 seconds lead that you already had with Sebastian Vettel.
Have Ferrari got the car into a position that Mercedes have been in for the last few years, where they've built a car that can't follow? And could that have something to do with the problem that Leclerc was having?
I think they've built themselves into a position where they've already given up on Sebastian Vettel. And if Sebastian Vettel comes good, it's now more problems for Ferrari because they can't manage two drivers.
Yeah, I'm not sure they've given up on Sebastian Vettel, but they don't know how to cope with having two drivers that have the ability to win races and the drive to win races, and the complete opposite of Raikkonen-ness of going, well, let me win this.
Yeah.
And I think that could be what wins Mercedes the championship next year.
Yeah,
probably.
Vettel saying to
Vettel and Leclerc fighting.
Vettel saying to Ferrari, well, tell him to catch me if you can.
Yeah.
Essentially that's what he was saying on the radio. He's got to get closer if he wants me to let him pass.
I still think Bottas needs to pick up next year.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. But all of this goes back to Monza, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That one is going to run till the end of the season between the pair of them at least, and if not into next year.
I don't think Vettel will be in Ferrari next year. There's no way he can risk staying in Ferrari. He can't do it, even if he sorts his head out and he's driving like Sebastian Vettel was in Red Bull, which I think this race pace, he was very close to that. Vettel has always been good at getting out in front, driving quicker than anybody else when he's in clear air and building a gap, braking DRS and then controlling a race. That's exactly what he was doing in Russia. And if you take his failure out of it, I think Sebastian Vettel could have won that race. That could have won the race. I still think the Mercedes probably would have done because we're saying tyres. I don't think Leclerc had the pace to win it, even if he'd got to the first corner first.
I think you could well be right.
I'm not writing Leclerc off. I also think his temperament needs to change as well.
Yeah, it was a bit
Grosjean levels of complaining.
In that case, can I quote a tweet that we got earlier?
Yep.
This one's from Jana. Do you think there's a way we can unsubscribe Charles from the Roman Grosjean school of whining? Maybe if we all put in 50 cents a month, we can send him to the Kimi Raikkonen school of shutting up and getting on with it.
No, I don't think you can unsubscribe subscribe him because I think he's took over. I think he is now the whiniest driver on the grid.
Dan, what did you say pre-race? He's Lewis Hamilton 2007.
Lewis Hamilton 2007, yeah. When Hamilton was saying what a fantastic job the team did.
Yeah.
While having a massive inter-garage battle.
Yeah, you're right. It's very, very similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only difference is they've already lost the championship.
I mean, the ultimate Hamilton comment from that year was the first time that he out-qualified Alonso and came back on the radio with, see what I can do when you give us the same chance.
Wow.
And I'm amazed that Ron Dennis didn't fire him on the spot.
Well, Ron Dennis was already favouring him over.
Well, he did.
That's why.
I'm going to go old school on this. He did grow him in a test tube.
He did.
We haven't used that line for a long time.
No, we haven't.
At least a week.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just interesting, and I'm confused at what Ferrari do now. because I still think I'm that Ferrari's really good, and Charles Leclerc has every race seems to be getting faster, and he proved me wrong because I was unsure, at first when he was starting to show pace,
But he was inconsistent, and he's starting to put that consistency together.
But I still think he's not. The comparison between him and Vettel isn't fair to do right now. I mean, it's fair because of what they're doing on track, but we can't compare the Sebastian Vettel in Ferrari what was in Red Bull. I think he's a different driver, and if he can be the driver that he was in Red Bull, I think he's probably still better than Leclerc.
It just depends on whether he can be that driver again.
I think Leclerc may even help him become that driver again by having someone to actually fight against and getting the killer edge back.
If Ferrari allow it, because they do seem all in on Leclerc being the future of Ferrari.
They wouldn't have signed him so young, or they wouldn't have brought him into the main team so young if they didn't. And
they wouldn't be favouring they wouldn't be favouring him over a 4-time world champion when that 4-time world champion is leading a race and 4 seconds quicker than the guy that you're trying to get ahead.
I think, given that Charles qualified on pole, and Vettel didn't, there's a reason that they said, yes, the toe's going to let Vettel past, then you swap again.
But that's fine. But there has to be a point when you're in that garage going, but he can win this race, and Charles hasn't got the pace that he's got. If we're gonna say the driver's bigger than the team, that's making the drivers not bigger than the team, picking the faster one to win the race.
The mistake they made was not to say to Charles, look, you're not catching him. We're not going to swap you back. We are going to have a word with him after the race and let him know how displeased we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ferrari don't do management because Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are going to need to, otherwise they're going to implode.
Because the thing is, and this is the major difference between Ferrari and Haas, Gunther Steiner, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, the driver seems to take control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the least Ferrari thing ever.
Yeah.
So,
do you really think they'll get into the briefing room though, and like Leclerc will just be like, right, what was all that about? Because I don't think he is. I think he's far too timid. I think they'll get into the briefing room.
I don't think he's timid. I think it's a facade.
I think he'll get into the briefing room, and I think it'll just be like, well, right, okay, so what do we do now then? Sebastian goes, well, nothing. I'm a full-time world champion.
I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. I was faster than you. If you
I think Charles Leclerc is trying to mentally break Sebastian Vettel with the things that are saying. He doesn't want
mind
Vettel
games.
He might not be sitting there plotting how he can do this, but I think that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's having the opposite effect.
Seems to be. I mean, that was a great race for up until the retirement. That, like I say, I think that was Sebastian Vettel of old. I found myself supporting him. I found myself wanting him to win. I mean, not that much because obviously I had money on Hamilton. But if Hamilton couldn't win, I wanted Leclerc to win because I had a couple of quid on Bottas as well. But I think I'd still Vettel. I think I'd still prefer Vettel to win.
So how did we do on our predictions from last week then? Okay. Actually,
I think I did okay. I think I got the right 3 drivers in the wrong 3 positions.
You did. You had a Bottas win, Leclerc second, and Hamilton third.
Which only gets me 3 points,
it
doesn't
does.
it? That's disappointing because I had the right drivers.
Eclipsed by Dan, who had a Hamilton win, Leclerc second, and Vettel third. A 4-pointer. Lee, a Vettel win, Hamilton second, Leclerc third.
Not good.
Another 4 points. I went for a Verstappen win, Vettel second and Leclerc third. 3 for me. Sean had a Hamilton win, Bottas second, And she was swearing at Leclerc for not crashing out because she had Verstappen in third and nearly got a 9-pointer, but didn't.
6.7.
I'm
for
taking a
Sean.
moral point for my guess of the continuing rebirth of Sebastian Vettel.
Zach Henderson, Hamilton win, Vettel second, Leclerc third, 6-pointer, which on our league table now puts the guest predictors in the lead.
Fair enough.
Well done, guests.
That is 2 6-pointers from guests in 2 races.
So what that means is we're just awful, and the guests are much better.
So one offs are better than the regulars.
They should be doing this show. We should just fuck off.
We should have quiet Monday nights in.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did things go on the listener predictions?
We can't let them get too much power. It's a hive mind. It's like the prediction version of 4chan.
Did we have any 11-point winners of the actual Ronald Mulveld Virtual Cup this week?
No.
No, we didn't. We had a few 9-pointers actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people got the right top 3, but the wrong fastest lap and the wrong pole. And I've just realised I need to do some work on the website so you can actually see it see the predictions on a mobile without having to turn it sideways. That's going to need sorting out. I'll get onto that before the next race. Right, heroes and villains.
Ferrari were the villains.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
McLaren were the heroes.
Vettel was the hero.
Albon was the hero.
Albon was a hero.
I'm going for Albon.
Bring back the fucking V12s. Vettel.
No.
Yeah, because when your engine's just blown up, what you want to do is go back to engines that blew up even more spectacularly.
Well, we do miss the smoke.
Yes.
Yeah,
It wasn't smoke, it was luxurious clouds.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, you now get three engines in a season. You used to get 3 blow-ups per car per weekend.
Yeah.
And call that a success.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The engines are so fucking technologically advanced now that when they blow up, they don't lose smoke. They lose fucking bandwidth.
It's kind of what happened, actually. Isn't it? I'm sorry, Dave.
Big clouds
I've
of
lost
zeros and ones
processing
coming
power.
out of it.
I'm losing power. I'm down to dial-up.
I did see the flashing red light on the front of the car.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
All I can say is just wait for the 2021 engine noise. Nobody will be happy with that.
Yes, I'm missing upshifts, guys. Yes, we're just checking your packet loss.
Right.
We're sending you a zip file. Download it and
what news have we got? We have what you have written down here.
There was an open door for an off and on again joke then.
Chris did it. You missed it. DC is president of the BRDC.
yes, he is.
Who's he taken over from? Who was the last one?
I can't remember.
Sorry, who was it?
Jason Plato, wasn't
I think it was actually,
Ah,
yeah.
it might have been.
David
who's done it?
Coulthard is
Oh,
now
is
the
he?
president of the BRDC.
Wow.
So he's the one that has to come out and make statements every time Silverstone's under threat for the next few years, even though they've got a contract.
Which means that David Coulthard is in charge of Silverstone getting a contract that they've already got.
So
for the
they've
next
done,
time
they've done the
they need a
hard work, and
contract.
now he can just sit there and go, "No, I don't need to do anything."
At least with it being David Coulthard, that when he comes out to make a statement, there isn't like 99% of the human race going, "Who's that?"
I know it's Jason Plato in the touring cars this weekend. He was doing sort of pretty well and got a load of ballast in the car, but I was trying to work out if that was his Zimmer frame or not.
he? He won, didn't he? For the first time since 2014?
Did he?
Believe so.
I missed the.
He has been doing touring cars since I was a child.
Yes.
He's been doing touring cars since 1914.
He was doing touring cars when I started watching touring cars.
He
Yeah.
was doing touring cars when they were worth watching.
Yeah, he was
When
a
John Cleland was a racer.
well, that was John Cleland when he was champion in what, 95? I remember
When
watching
Nigel
it then.
Mansell was in it.
Yeah, I remember Nigel Mansell in his
Wasn't ideal.
Ford Mondeo.
I saw him racing at Donington.
Yeah,
did
when he
you?
put it in the gravel.
He crashed. Yes,
Yeah.
it was great.
If Deb Coulthard is in charge of the BRDC, and therefore something high up in Silverstone, just get the bloody earthing sorted out on the doors to the press centre so I don't get another electric shock like that again if I ever go there.
I'm sure David's an avid listener.
Yeah. I'm sure it's top of his agenda.
Yeah, if you're complaining strongly, I'm sure he can take it on the chin.
Oh, that's the best joke we've had all evening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not been a great deal of good ones to choose from.
No,
What have we
but
got
that's still
next?
the best.
Oh, Ross Brawn is saying 2021 may well happen in 2021.
Which is pretty much what I was saying earlier.
Like an
Yeah.
anti-Nostradamus prediction.
Yeah, apparently the deadline's looking good.
Yeah, it is looking good. Everybody's ready to sign contracts. Counter arguments are being spoken about, and discussions are actually happening between teams, which is rare in Formula One. Usually, it's just like, well, they don't agree with the rules I want to put forward, so therefore, I'm not going to talk to them.
So what we've got is a deadline of the 31st of October
Yeah,
where people are saying, look, just get it done. And there's complex negotiations, and one of the sides is saying, yep, it's all going to go fine.
yeah, which means it's nothing like Brexit.
No, absolutely.
Because Brexit does not have any complex negotiations currently going on, and no one is saying it's going to be fine.
Although Ferrari did come out last week and say it will be a shame for us to have to use our veto. Which sounds like a line from The Godfather.
Nice formula you got there. Be a shame if someone were to veto it.
I can't help but think maybe this is going to end up being, team like shareholders that stop Formula One teams being overly Formula One teamy about it, because like obviously the people that are directly involved with motorsport, you know, and like your Toto Wolffs and your Christian Horners, they're solely focused on wanting the best deal for their team, you know, so they can win races. But if you've got the likes of Ross Brawn and the Formula One team having shareholder meetings with people saying, look, we can bring more revenue in if we get more eyes on the sports, then your shareholders are going to start shouting down at the team, go, well, we want this because it's going to make more money.
Yeah, and you're going to do it because
Yay, capitalism. It's going to fix Formula One.
might actually.
That went well before.
No, but it makes sense, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does, yeah.
No, it's going to be interesting over the next sort of month to see how things play out towards the end of this deadline.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some posturing somewhere. And
There will be
public
talk of a
posturing.
breakaway series.
Yeah, there should have been already now, shouldn't there? Let fucking Ferrari go and do it.
Yeah.
Let Italy have its own IndyCar.
Well, if Ferrari turn around and say, well, if you do that, we're leaving Formula One, I think they should just do that.
Yeah.
Formula Vito,
Mm-hmm.
which again does sound like an Italian racing series.
Does a bit.
Do you know what what Formula Ones? What racing series around the world don't have Ferrari in? Loads of them.
Yeah.
Loads of successful series don't have Ferrari in them.
And NASCAR.
Yes.
Every single series in the world that doesn't have Ferrari in it, apart from Formula One and the Ferrari Challenge Cup.
Yes.
I think they're the only two, aren't they?
Isn't the Ferraris in WEC?
Yeah, but they're not factory entries. They're private.
They're privately owned. Well, privately owned. They bought the cars in,
Yeah.
GT'd them, and sent them out.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's all they do,
It's
then-
Ferrari, and then the Challenge Cup, depending on whatever the model number of newest Ferrari is.
Probably it's Formula One doesn't need Ferrari as much as Ferrari need Formula One. It's just clean facts. Like Ferrari are a fucking clothing manufacturer, not a car company. That's where the money comes from. Is by getting people to buy things with Ferrari on it, not people sitting in Ferraris.
Although they're trying to attract the people to sit in Ferraris by selling the clothes to them.
Yeah, no, but it's the people that can't afford Ferraris that keep Ferrari afloat.
Yeah.
You know, so it's they sell a lifestyle. That's why they're there.
That's why you don't see as many Fiat baseball caps.
Yeah, of course. So yeah,
If anyone has got a Fiat baseball cap, send us a photo.
well look at Renault. Wasn't it something like when Fernando Alonso won a world championship at Renault, their car sales went up like 200%. That won't happen if Ferrari win.
As they only sell something like 50 cars a year, it could feasibly. Because if Ferrari win a world championship, Vettel will buy all his family a Ferrari.
Yeah. Spoiler: companies that invite people to buy their cars aren't making their money from building those cars. That's not a business model.
Yeah, as we've said it before, you have to pay for the Ferrari you're going to drive up front.
Yeah.
You have to pay for it all in one go.
And then you
go.
And you have to be allowed to buy some of them.
Yeah, you have to be allowed, but you're not allowed to buy this. Why not? You weren't here for the last lot. You have to buy the model down from this.
Well, which one was it?
You're not allowed to buy this one. Why? You were never in Pink Floyd.
Which Ferrari was it that if they only made a few of them, you bought it and they kept it at Maranello for you? You could only drive it around the circuit.
The FXX,
was it?
I think it was. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. You could drive it up more than one circuit, but it was just for track days.
Yeah,
you paid $1 million for this car,
and they kept it.
Kept it. You weren't allowed to take it home.
No, I want it.
Because it was the one that Schumacher turned up on Top Gear driving.
Yes, yeah, that was it. Crazy.
What else do we have? We've not really mentioned Nick De Vries' title.
We did a little bit earlier.
We did a little bit earlier, but
congratulations, Nick De Vries. Off you go to Formula E with your merch and for Mercedes. Good,
like a hobbit.
No, good luck to Nick De Vries, because I mean he's taken a couple of years in Formula 2 to get used to. He's not quite Palmer, is he? 4 seasons, but is it 2 or 3?
I think this was his 3rd.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So well done, Nick De Vries.
Toto Wolff has said that he's not ruling out Stoffel or Nick De Vries coming from Formula E to Formula 1.
Yeah.
I mean, you said as soon as Stoffel got announced as being dumped by McLaren, Toto signed him. You said for some reason Toto's got a soft spot for Stoffel Van Dorn, and you couldn't work out why.
Well, he always said, didn't he? You know, before Stoffel was put in a McLaren, they didn't know if he was going to put Stoffel in the car alongside Alonso, or if it was going to be Jensen and Alonso for another year. And Toto turned around and said, "Well, if McLaren can't find a seat for him, I will."
Yeah.
Just a different series, but it's still going to be a silverish car with Mercedes on. So
it's black and silver. Yeah.
Well, you've got to think that Mercedes, that they're going to a good place. Anything less than challenging for the championship from Formula E will be a failure for Mercedes, I'd have thought, even with it being their first year.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
I mean, they've had the year of practice with the Mercedes in everything but name,
and the build up to it. You know, there hasn't been, to my recollection, another Formula One team like put themselves out there as we're joining Formula E as much as Mercedes has.
Yeah, I mean, Renault weren't really all that sort of bigging it up. And
is it Renault? Is it Prost's team? Is it what? You know?
Yeah, it's kind of. It's Infinity. It says Renault on the car. It's Edams. It's Dams Racing. Or now
and
it's
that's a cheese.
Now it's Nissan. Yeah, now Prost has moved from being in the Formula E garage to standing in the Formula 1 garage.
Now he's signed Albon. No, wait, no, we haven't.
Yeah. Who knows? We could see Nick De Vries driving a Toro Rosso next season.
Well, maybe, but unlikely.
That is probably about it for all the newsy stuff that we've got. Chances are there'll be more next week.
We did mention about we've talked about McLaren.
We talked about the McLaren Mercedes deal, and we're not allowed to call it McMurk.
No, because it's horrible, and it makes me sad inside.
Even though they've been McHonda and McRenault.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but McLaren Mercedes is just nice, and they're going to win a world championship in their first year.
It's time for your medication.
Well,
if Lee's right about that one, then that will really be something.
I'll have to bet on it now they've said it.
Do it.
Do you remember, what was it, BAR that said they were going to win their first race from pole with an engine that wasn't made by Supertech?
BAR said a lot of things.
Yeah. Adrian Reynard, ladies and gentlemen.
And eventually they became Honda, who became Braun, who then won a world championship.
And just for some reason paid Jacques Villeneuve all of the money in the world.
I mean, it was kind of sort of vaguely prescient, because, I mean, 10 years later, in their new incarnation as Braun, they won their first race from pole with an engine that wasn't a Supertech.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
he
was
did,
right,
yeah.
Just 10 years ahead of his time.
Who sent in this week's shunt?
This week's shunt was sent in by Jason Jackson.
A name which you were surprisingly good at pronouncing.
Yep, that's why I picked it.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason, even though your name does sound like a NASCAR driver.
Will we be
Does sound
thanking
like Jason
Jason
Jackson.
at the end of this total shunt? Let's find out.
It depends if it's a NASCAR-related show.
If it is, I haven't got it. Go.
Or the unloved Jackson brother, which couldn't sing, so nobody knew who
Oh,
he was.
one of the Jackson 7.
Yeah. He was just a really good juggler. I was born
Yay.
in 1973.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so 46 this year.
I'm probably not one of the Jackson 7. My first job in Formula One was a brand new with a brand new team.
My first job in Formula One was with a brand new team. So if it's someone, we're looking at somebody 15 years ago, maybe.
Well, he's left the team there, actually. I don't know whether he wanted me to tell you that or not, but I will tell you. The brand new team was BAR.
Well, there you go. Look at that.
Are you-
Synchronicity.
Aren't you a super tech engineer?
Well, we know that the drivers for the brand new team were Button and Villeneuve, weren't they?
No.
Was it not Button?
No, it
No,
was
not
Zonta.
until.
Zonta.
It was 99. It was the year before Button started.
Yeah, Button joined BAR a bit later.
Zonta was a good name. Good name.
Driving skills?
Tremendous crash at Eau Rouge.
Yeah, horrendous.
Tremendous.
Horrendous.
Dared to take it flat by Jacques.
Yeah.
After Jacques had done
After Jacques had done the same thing.
Yeah.
And was also part of the best overtake in Formula One ever.
Just not anything to do with the actual pass.
No.
Just got lapped very quickly.
By two cars at the same time.
But that wouldn't have been anywhere near as spectacular if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think we got another clue before the...
Previous team associations include Lauda and Peroni.
That's going back a long way. We're talking about a sponsor here.
I mean, everyone knows that sort of the main Lauda sponsor was Parmalat until they went under. But they were going a long time before 1973.
Parmalat got... But you mean Lauda went under or Parmalat? Because
Parmalat
Parmalat's
went
still
under.
going now.
Yeah, but they ran out of money and then reformed because they stopped sponsoring Niki Lauda's hat.
Okay.
But he kept the same hat that he'd worn since 1984, and he just put a new patch on the front with his new sponsors. But if it was somebody that was born in 1973 and their first job in Formula One was with BAR,
Yep.
it could be Zonta.
I'd like a guess, please.
Yeah, go Ricardo
Yeah,
Zonta.
Ricardo Zonta.
I studied a PhD at the University of Leeds.
So we're probably looking at a engineer or a aerodynamicist.
Don't know. Ricardo Zonta might have gone to university in Leeds.
Yeah, stop cutting the Zonta down. He might
Yeah.
be really smart.
Might have a good brain.
Yeah. I had to do something right. Wasn't driving.
Was Mike Gascoigne BAR?
Yeah, he was.
I like you. I like the fact you think that he might have a PhD.
I'm
He
pretty
might
sure
have
PhD?
he almost certainly does.
Yeah, good call that.
I'm still active in F1 to this day.
Yeah.
He talks about it occasionally, doesn't he?
Yeah. No, talking about it means you're active.
Whilst wearing far too many leather wristbands and like tribal necklaces.
How old's Pete Windsor?
Older than 43.
Yeah, he's been in the F1 for a long time as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But did he join BAR when it was a newly formed team? Do you know what I mean? Like, he may have worked with Lauda, but then did he... Although, if he worked with Lauda, was what, like 86?
I think 86 was his last season.
But
Maybe he designed planes for Lauda Air.
86 and born in 73. You were in 13.
Maybe he was carrying trays of Peroni onto the Lauda airplane.
Maybe.
Number 6.
Yes, please.
I am more recognisable by my voice than my face.
Leeds is also a big media university. They've got a massive journalism department. Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits did his journalism degree at Leeds Uni.
Was he anything to do with BAR?
He was a Leeds student. He was propping one up. I've had many drunken
We've got
nights
to
in the Leeds
move
University
this Lucky
BAR.
Strike livery.
Hang on, 46.
We got a split cigarette livery.
Could be Crofty.
Could be Crofty. He's from round that neck of the woods, isn't he? Ish.
No, but he could have.
Is he not from Yorkshire? Not a Yorkshireman.
Didn't think it was a Yorkshireman. But you don't have to live local to a university.
I'd like a guess.
But
Shall we
does Crofty?
Guess at Dr. David Croft?
It could be an honorary doctorate.
Well, he's got a PhD. Is that a doctorate?
Yeah.
What is it? Okay, Dr. David Croft then.
I'm going to change this one slightly. My nickname may be considered quite rude.
Seeing as most of Twitter calls him fucking Crofty every time he goes pro Lewis Hamilton.
Must admit,
Stephen Terra, that one is for you, mate.
being a Crofty disciple for a while now, I'm getting a bit in the head with him.
Sorry, did you just call yourself a Hamilton fanboy? Next.
How old's Theodore Slotover?
That's an unfortunate surname.
Could be about the right age.
Well, he'd done media and stuff with Formula One teams before he became pit lane man.
In round about 99 when...
I think Louise Goodman was
When Louise
97,
Goodman
98,
left.
wasn't she? Yeah, maybe.
You might be onto something there. She noticed she was presenting the touring cars this weekend.
But what's his dirty nickname?
No idea.
Me neither.
Hashtag where's Ted?
I
What's-
will
what's-
preface, I said rude, not dirty.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
He gets called Lenny.
That's not rude or dirty.
No.
It's just a bad name.
Yeah.
I thought the other day, I've decided that anyone that names their child Gary has already given up on them before they've even started. Number 8. I have worked with more than one multiple world champion and 5 champions in total.
Those clues are a bit too vague. I know that's kind of the idea, but
I think it's a pretty good one, that.
So, multiple world champions in sort of...
In Formula One.
General,
bring that.
in general commentary, punditry.
No, I'll help out here, probably by getting rid of that. He has worked with them directly.
Ah. Still doesn't help a great deal.
no, it
No.
doesn't.
I am most well known for my 2009 season.
Rubens. He was already in Formula One
I was going to say he was in Formula One a long time before...
before he studied uni at Leeds.
He's got last clues of Spaffer, but it's not the Spaffer, it's the 10th clue.
Worked with 5 world champions. Barrichello's teammates over the years.
Would you like your last clue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm currently the chief race engineer for AMG Mercedes F1 team.
Andrew Shovlin.
Would be, wouldn't it?
I think so. Who else? James Vowles is also... Is he chief race engineer? I get confused because they've all got very similar titles. But most known for his 2009 season, he was Button's
He was
race
Button's race engineer, wasn't
Yeah. Shove. Andrew Shovlin.
I'm Andrew Shovlin.
he? Hey.
Hey.
Well done, Chris.
Shove being a rude thing to do to people.
Yeah,
And
well-
the clue was my nickname would be a rude thing to do to somebody on track, and I thought that was too obvious because I knew the 10th clue.
It would be a rude thing to do to Alex Albon in the paddock.
Yeah, I knew that the last clue. The thing with this is, guys, if you're going to send one of these in, I want 10 clues, and the Spaffer's optional. But obviously, that last 10th clue was going to give it away.
So how
Too
do you
much
send
giveaway.
one in?
You can tweet me at the Total Shunt, and you can send me a PM, and that'll be fine. You can do it on Instagram at a Total Shunt if you so choose.
And I still need another couple for the reserve list. So if anybody feels like doing what Patrick Walter Thompson did and emailing one in, I'll pick that up at 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. Right, do a quick Formula Lee because it was a 1 week race,
It was.
and let me find. I bloody lost it again. Hang on, it's in here somewhere. It was a lap of Sochi in the 2018 F2 Russian time car
Yeah.
because it was all Russian and everything, and the times came out somewhere on my phone. I bloody lost them.
This is good podcasting on the fly, this.
This is getting edited out. There it is. Bloody hell! I'm having one of them nights.
Edit.
Yep. Right. You needed to get a time of. Let me just find the right one. Oh God.
Paul, what are you doing?
I am on fire tonight, or at least I should be set fire to. You needed a time of 1:48.118 to get into the top 20, and top 20 came out like this. 20th place was Ashley Woodhouse. 19th, don't have your name, just your gamer tag, which is AFM72. James Paschal was 18th. I can't get the words out tonight. 17th was Wellington Moreau. 16th was Adam Smith. 15th was Jimmy Hamlin.
Wellington Moreau is a tremendous name.
Sounds like a mystery novel writer.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. So something bordering on science fiction, but not quite science fiction, like science fantasy.
The Case of the Deserted Spaceship by Wellington Moreau.
Or, like stories like Shutter Island.
Yeah.
He'd write things like that.
Or, what was it, 16mm?
Yeah.
Something like that.
If you do write books, send me one of them and I'll pretend I read it.
You get a grown-up to read it to you.
Or I'll search for it on Audible.
Where were we? 15th place, Jimmy Hamlin. 14th was Joe Marsh. 13th, Pete Bull. 12th was Vajcha Camping. 11th, Max Williams. 10th, Ian Walker. 9th was Julian McMahon Hyde. That can't be right. I came 8th.
Well done,
Well
Paul.
done.
I've stopped being shit. 7th was Matthew Morrison.
I'd also point out that none of us do it either. Remember Williams?
Pastor Maldonado won a race. In 6th place was Matthew Gooch, and thank you for sending me how to pronounce your name because it's not spelt like that.
No, it isn't.
And top 5, Kyle Armstrong in 5th.
His name's Gooch.
Gooch. Matthew Gooch, yeah. Spelled G-O-O-G-H.
Where does he come from?
Australia, isn't he?
I think he's Australian.
Do they use the word Gooch in Australia?
Yeah, usually along the terms of fucking Graham Gooch, bastarding English cricketer.
Well, just in case you don't, the Gooch is the useless bit of skin between your bum hole and the bottom of your balls.
Also known as the Smelly Bridge.
Thank you, Jacques.
That was educational.
Taught me a lesson. Fourth place, usual winner and struggling this week, Alessandro Popolani. Top three, Justin Smedley with a time of 146.148.
Actual Smedley?
I think he might be related. Second place, Chris Albee, 145.788. And this week's winner with a time of 145.214 was Carl Toomey. So, well done to everybody, including me, who got into the top 20. Race for Japan. I'm just glossing over this one now. It's time to go home. Race for Japan. Let's do it in the wet in a racing point.
Okay.
2-week challenge. You've got until Monday the 14th, 7 o'clock UK time. We're going now. We'll see you next week. Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.